Alright guys, so Learner Tien's forehand is really reliable, really consistent. He's been shooting up the rankings, and let's get into this video about how he hits his forehand, okay? So as the ball starts to come in from his opponent, the first thing he's doing is his shoulder turn, okay? So he's getting side on nice and early, and his preparation is really quick because you can see he's already got the racket head up and back in that racket preparation position almost before the ball's even landed. He's almost starting that preparation before the ball even crosses the net. He uses that left hand on the throat of the racket to help with the take back. He's got the racket quite high. You can see if I draw a line through his shoulder, you can see that racket head is above his head height. Okay, so he's got quite a high take back, which is going to really help him create a lot of racket head speed on the racket drop, creating more momentum, more power, more spin into the ball. All right, so as the ball comes into land, a slight separation with the right hand. I meant the right hand, the hand on, because he's left-handed. The right hand is the one on the throat of the racket. I don't know if I said left hand at the beginning. So a slight separation with the right hand and the left hand is going to happen here as the ball's bouncing, okay? And this is when the strings start to slightly face back and down, okay? And that's a real key. He straightens out the right arm, okay, helping coil the shoulders, and then he's also going to start his loading into the left leg, loading the legs, loading the hip, storing that power through his core, right? So if I draw a line through the shoulders again, he's going to start his racket drop phase here. So the racket's going to start to drop down, and notice how the strings are down here. So the strings are facing down. Forehand's a bit Rafa-like actually. When I compared Rafa's, it reminds me of it a little bit. On the preparation's quite high, and then down. And then this is when all that power that he's been storing through his hips and his core is going to snap forward into the ball, right? And when he does that, that's going to create the racket lag phase, okay? So you can see how that hip starts to rotate forward, his chest starts to rotate as well, and then the racket head starts to lag back behind him, okay? And that's called the racket lag. Guys, you will not get that position unless you're very relaxed and loose in your wrist and in your forearm, okay? If you're too tense there, that's not going to happen. It doesn't matter how much you're using your legs to rotate. You've got to use a relaxed wrist to let this happen, okay? So then as he comes through into the contact, he's rotating. He's got a slight bend in the elbow, right? And he's in a semi-western forehand grip as a lefty as well. And the tip of the racket's pointing back, all right? So now all this kinetic energy is going to really use that whip effect, that wrist lag, snap into the ball, right? Creating that racket head speed, all right? And when the racket's this distance from the ball, this is when the top pros really accelerate even more just before they touch the ball, all right? So you can think about on contact, are your strings brushing the ball quickly using that forearm strength, right? But also, are you keeping the tip of the racket pointing to more horizontal out to the side at contact? Sometimes players or club players, they have a tendency to open the hand a little bit here in that position, and also have a slight diagonal facing racket head tilted towards the ground. So they almost come through more horizontal at contact. You also see that he's got a bend in the elbow. So he's got a bit of a double bend in the elbow, but notice how he's got good spacing between him and the ball. So that shows you that he's really hitting the ball out in front of his body, and that's going to allow him to maximize his contact point. Here he's going to start to close the hand round to the shoulder, right? So you can see on the follow through, he likes to finish with the strings a little bit down on the way round, but then the strings actually open a little bit to the side. And by what that tells me is when the strings open up to the side like that, that's showing me how much topspin he's putting on the ball, because that's more of a whip-like brush around the contact, which helps you generate a lot more topspin. If you close the racket head down to the shoulder, then you generate a little bit more sort of linear power through the shot, a slightly lower trajectory. Look how he finishes all the way around his back on the finish, with the tip of the racket finishing all the way that way. So this is actually really interesting, right? Because if you look at a lot of forehands, they don't finish all the way around in that position. What that tells you is that there's no slowing down in Learner Tien's swing. So he's not putting the brakes on that swing early. He's just letting the racket fly all the way through contact, all the way around the shoulder. It's whipping through really quickly, whereas a lot of players almost put the brake on a little bit and it slows down through contact. So let's just have a look at another one. So he's got the left hand there, helping support the racket head up. You'll see Carlos Alcaraz does that. Tip of the racket goes that way. Elbow's got the nice bend in it, keeping that arm nice and relaxed. Then he's going to start to coil the hips and the shoulders. He loads on that back leg. He gets into the racket drop phase, right, with the strings slightly facing down. Okay, and all these pros are all doing a similar blueprint, and you guys can really copy this and utilize these tips in your own game, okay? Because there seems to be a very similar trend in what these top players are doing. So it's about training smart, training the right way, and there's no reason you can't implement these things into your own game, okay? Everyone's got a slightly different style. You have to pick a player that kind of works for you, that you feel like you're similar to mechanics-wise, and just kind of take a few things from those players. All right, so here you can see he's got the butt cap of the racket pointing straight at the ball there. Tip of the racket's lagging back behind him, and then he's going to use that whip effect to snap through to the contact. Think about having the tip of the racket pointing more out to the side, and then you've got to really make sure you're utilizing that vertical brush through the contact. All right, generating that heavy topspin through the ball, extending forward, guys. Okay, you've got to make sure you're extending that racket through the swing path as much as you can to make sure you're hitting a penetrating ball. Otherwise, if you don't really commit through and extend through the contact point, your ball's not going to be as heavy. Okay, and then this was the real key. Look how he doesn't slow down, so he doesn't catch the racket here. A lot of players actually just kind of catch the racket there. Sometimes I have the tendency to do that, and I see a lot of players actually doing that. But he just lets that arm go all the way around, all right? So that's an extra 5% of power right there, just from being extra loose through the finish. Whipping that racket all the way around the body, no slowing down, and that's how he's generating a seriously heavy forehand, guys, all right? So let's just have a quick look at his backhand, even though this is a forehand video. So here you can see that he actually has quite a good spacing there. So he doesn't take the racket too close to him at the beginning. It's actually a little bit out wide. He keeps the tip of the racket up here. And now let's have a look at the racket drop phase. So if I draw a line through the shoulders, does he drop the racket head? So he gets the racket head dropping there. It's like he's almost into two continental grips, it looks like. So he gets the tip of the racket coming through that way. He looks like the strings are almost going to open up a little bit. So I think he's got quite a flat backhand, guys. He doesn't generate a load of spin on that side. But having that contrast between a heavy topspin forehand on one side and a flatter backhand on the other side really actually adds a little bit of spice to your game, because those contrasting shots can cause difficult rhythm for your opponent, right? And just look again how he's got that baseball finish, doesn't put the brake on, follows all the way around the shoulder. A lot of players don't reach that position, so that's a key backhand tip that you could take from Learner Tien. Hope you enjoyed this video, guys. I'll see you on the next video. Give me a like and subscribe. If you want your own free taster analysis by me, just check the link in the bio. Thanks again, Jack.